It's loud. Hot mic. Man, thanks for coming. I know like half of you are like, I work here. Please wrap it up. Have a call. But yeah, so I just put like a bunch of slides together, and I'm just going to talk about them. That's how the talk's going to go, and I'm going to try not to talk for 3 hours. I'm just going to try to wrap it up. But basically, I titled this talk "The Power of Play," just kind of a little bit on a whim, and also like what's sort of a theme of like sort of creatively speaking, how my career has kind of gone, and it has. You can like look at the trajectory of a lot of places that I've been and things where I've gone creatively through this idea of like playing leading to like actual work and jobs and making a career out of it. But basically, I'll skip a lot of stuff I normally go through, like how I always grew up drawing and painting, and then I got into music, and that really shaped me, and I thought I wanted to be a musician, and then going back and discovering graphic design, and but I'll fast forward through that and just start with at a moment where I was feeling desperate and working in Dallas and just going around and talking to people, trying to get opinions about my work, trying to get better and move forward, and having no idea what to do, thinking a job was gonna be the thing that was gonna like push me forward. So having that perfect job was the thing that I needed to do next, and I met with an awesome guy named Paul Jurdy, who some of you guys know, but he sat with me and he told me this: do the work that you want to do until someone starts to pay you to do it. And at the time, I was just like, okay, Mr. sitting at the top of your field, and like you have no idea what's going on. Like, so it's like, okay, dude, whatever. And it wasn't until like a little bit later that I kind of clicked and I understood what he was saying. He's just like, do the things that are inspiring to you, that you want to sit and do and work on, that are fun, do that, and then eventually that stuff will work. And then the other kind of quip, that's Kevin Costner in a field of corn, and there's a famous quote from this movie. That's if you build it, they will come. So I won't explain the movie. Go and watch it. It's good. But it's this idea of like, okay, if you want to, and back then all I wanted to do was like gig posters and make posters for my favorite bands. And so I even like back then sent random emails to their management like, hey, do you need any posters? I can make a poster. And I had no posters to show at all, which seems so obvious now. But it's like, no, you have to demonstrate that you can do something before somebody's gonna, But the way to get there, and those words have kind of stuck with me, is like you got to go and do it first, build the thing, and then live as the person that you want to be in the future, and then first, and then it will sort of come into focus. So so that's what I was doing. I was playing in a bunch of bands, and so I just started making posters for shows, even though they usually didn't ever get even made, or we'd print one at Kinko's and put it up or whatever, and just really tinkering and getting into the idea of like just having fun and making stuff that I wanted to make for something that I was doing. And that was, and like these are horrible, but making these weird flyers and things that I wasn't really good at typography at all, but you can see like a weird, like all kinds of type, and I still really love that idea. And it's like, back then it was very clunky and didn't really work, but it's like, you keep doing stuff and you keep working on it, and just like doing like weird CD covers and just trying to figure it out. So then my wife and I were like, let's get out of here. Let's go to New York and try our hand at that. What's the worst that can happen? Move back to Texas, be a waiter. That's fine. We'll do it. And so we moved to New York in 2008. And we moved from the dinosaur's leg to the dinosaur's neck. And then, so long story short, I landed this job at an agency called Spotco that they do Broadway theater advertising. And when I went in, I had all this stuff in my portfolio, all these theater posters and CD packages that I was doing on the weekend and at night, and I don't think I showed anything that I was doing at my actual job. And then walking into a place that does theater advertising, they're like, "Can you start Monday?" And I was like, "Huh?" I didn't know that a designer had just put their 2 weeks notice in, and I had showed up like right at the right time. And so they brought me in as a freelancer, and I went in and got my butt handed to me for a year, which is good. I learned also that if you want to get better at something, just put yourself in a position where you're the worst person in the room, which is like horrible at the time, but man, you're gonna like get there faster. And so that's what happened. I was there doing all these like theater posters and getting into loving typography. I was working with a woman named Gail Anderson, who is a legend in the field and just incredible with type, and just got me really excited about typography. And so doing all this kind of stuff with theater, building these campaigns and doing artwork for theater, and it was fun because we were going to see anything, you could go see anything for free and going to all these opening night parties, standing in the corner like, "There's Alicia Silverstone," "Sarah Jessica Parker just brought me," like, and just living this kind of weird life, and it was pretty magical. Also having the opportunity there to like do a bunch of other kind of work, like magazine covers, anything that would come to Gail Anderson, which was a lot. She would just come out of her office and just be like, "Anybody want to help me with a magazine cover?" And I'd be like, "I'll help," and which help meant like just do it 100% of the. And you're like, "Well, how's this?" "Oh yeah, that's fine." And then it's like, "Cover design by Gail Anderson." but it's like that's that's how it works. It's like paying your dues or whatever. But wouldn't have had those kind of opportunities, and like designing we met every Sunday and just designed this book over the course of a year, and I'd never done a book before. And then like I always like to, speaking of play and having fun, I always like to sneak little Easter eggs. Like my wife's name is Allison, so I'm like constantly sneaking like stuff into my work all the time, which is a fun thing to do. If anybody's able to do that, I highly recommend the Easter egg. But and then getting to work with like incredible illustrators. Like for the show, I sent this little crappy sketch to this illustrator to get a sketch back to show to the client. This guy named Mark Stutzman. And then I think it was like a day or two later, I get this back, and I'm just like, "That is professional. That is a professional sketch." It's like insane. Like you drew all of the newspaper. Anyway, so that like really taught me like, oh, that's the next level. That's how you like act and work as an illustrator. So all these like experiences were combining with like, and I was still going home and just making stuff and having fun and playing. And I don't think I would have called it play back then. I think it was like the personal project, but it's play. You're playing, which is good. So I was getting into like type, looking at all these cool like signed letters. I did this. This is one of the first things I did. I was like, how about for a Broadway show we do a light bulb sign? No one's ever done that before. Everyone's like, "Okay, yeah, that's fine. Let's just do it." It's only the most cliche thing that you could possibly do. So I was like, they let me do it. But I again hired this illustrator to do this piece of type for the title, and did the sketch, and he sent this back. And if you just look at this detail, it's like I was just blown away. I was like, opening this thing up, like, whoa, it's a digital illustration, And then that got me thinking, like, I want to try one. So I went home immediately and like made this thing. And I was at the time back then, sharing your work was on Flickr, like Instagram wasn't a thing yet. And so, but I was pumping stuff out. Anything I would make, I just kind of throw out there. And then slowly that stuff started getting kind of picked up by little design blogs and different things. So it's like the playing at home, if you build it, they will come, doing stuff at home, and then just putting it out there with no kind of like expectation or getting paid for it. It's just like stuff that you want to do and getting it out there. So I was doing that. So this thing like led to, then Nike called, and I put that out, and people started calling, and doing these, like, this was for a magazine, like header. And so all these opportunities started coming. I kind of built this whole style of sign lettering illustration, which I was like, this could be a thing. So any job that came to me for anything, I was like, how about we here's a crazy idea. How about we do a sign? Like, oh, yeah. So like over about a year, that's like all I did. So I built up this giant portfolio of like science stuff. And then people started coming to me specifically for that. So it was like, but it was all good because I loved making that stuff. You know, it was like, so it was a win-win, something that I was already interested in and like passionate about and loved doing, and then figuring out how to kind of like pump the work out and turn that into like an industry or whatever. So these are just some examples of some of that work. But and again, still like totally love love doing this kind of work. So there's a bunch of stuff for Ray-Ban, who like built this sign and like down the street and built this thing that hung in the window for 3 weeks, and they didn't tell me. And so I found this teeny tiny thing online, like, you built the thing? I'm like, thanks a lot. Like, that would have been cool to see. Like, oh yeah, we tore that down. Everyone hated it. No, I'm just kidding. Some pretty cool like projects. So this stuff is kind of fun. I don't know how much and it's so fun to like nerd out and just get real detailed with this stuff. I just love like tinkering, especially coming from working so much in the advertising world where everything is just like bah, 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 bah. It's like to sit there and spend 20 hours on like the letter H. It's kind of a nice contrast. And then making things look like super realistic is really fun. Like this little neon thing for Airbnb magazine and this campaign for JBL. So anyway, and then the other side was I had a background in painting, and that's kind of what I wanted to do, was to be like a painter, until I realized like I'm going to be poor. So I was like, I will learn the computer. And that's how I discovered graphic design. But painting has always been like a thing that I love. So it's like when I was at Spaco learning more about typography and letters, I was like, what if we painted some letters? And that's like the subject of a work is letters instead of like a figurative stuff. So started kind of doing that, had some opportunities that just kind of popped up. And like this one, and I have this one here. Oh yeah, this is the first painting. So like this one is really important because this is I hadn't painted in like 7 years from graduating from college and then to that point in New York. And I literally pulled out this box of paint that had been sitting there for years and years and years. I'm like, oh. And so this is painted with like a combination of like student grade acrylics, like silk screen ink. Like I just kind of started putting it all together, and it still survives. So that's funny. But anyway, that unlocked another thing. Like, man, I love painting this stuff, and I could use this in design. And so that's another thing. Oh, here I am, like in my tiny apartment all night. It was like due the next day. So I was like, let's do this. My back still hurts from that. But so like that was fun. And so on the weekends, I would just like, these were a couple of pieces that I just kind of painted on the weekend. Before you have kids, you can do whatever you want. It's very nice. But like you get an Amazon package and there's like those little pieces of cardboard that come in the box, and it's just like, this is like a perfect little canvas. Does anyone else feel like that? It's like, you could really do something with this. It's a shame to throw it away. So I just like sat down and like made something on it, and for no purpose other than just to have fun and kind of do something and to play, But then like the more you do this, so I had this piece here in real life, which I always like to. I'm not going to step in front of there, but if you want to look at it, but it's always fun to see stuff in real, especially painting. But this and then translates to like a bag. And then again, like I started kind of putting that stuff out there, and I started getting calls. Like New York Times called me to do this little, I can't even remember what it is, some article about something. But and again, Nike and this is for Ford. And then the Ace Hotel, there's an opportunity to do some big work for their rooms. They were building a hotel at that time and needed artwork for all their rooms. And I had some buddies who were kind of doing. I'm like, I've never done a big giant painting before. I'm like, do you want to do it? I'm like, yes. Like, okay, here's some canvas. So they sent these big rolls of canvas, and I'm like, how am I going to do this? So like I found a space in the agency that was like behind the seamless, like there was a little camera studio in the back, and I would go there on the weekend and kind of roll the seamless up and use that space to paint these things. And and then I was like, I'm gonna need to be in the actual room when I'm installing this, just to make sure that things look good. So a couple days probably, and they're like, okay. And so like my wife and I stayed at the Ace Hotel on like a completely empty floor for like 2 days, and I was like completely done with it. I was just like, free vacation. But so those things, that then led to more stuff, and I was posting that stuff. Everything I was making, I was kind of pumping out in different ways. I think it was still Flickr at that point, but this was for Wahlburgers, that weird TV show. So they were using that. And I had to make this, and like I showed up, and there was this giant wall. They were like, "All right, you got 5 hours." I was like, "Here we go." And so it was just like, there was something that was spelled wrong, I think, right as like Mark Wahlberg was walking, and I was like, "No!" And then like dove behind the thing. But and then he like, wait, see if I can find it. He came up and he goes, huh, wedgie. I was like, Mark Wahlberg, he's crazy. Okay, so anyway, this is like, so I was putting that stuff out there, and then got a call from an agency in Chicago, and they were doing a project for McDonald's, and I was like, okay, sweet, cha-ching. Like, we want you to do some painted like type lettering for this new product called the Spicy Chicken McBite. I was like, sounds delicious. Let's do it. And so we had a meeting, and they're like, it's between a couple of people, and it turns out it was between like me and a couple other like good friends, and we like just still joke about it. And it's a small little world. It was a small world at the time, but so we got on this meeting. It's like, and they're like explaining the project. Okay, you're gonna be like in this apartment and painting this mural, and your friends are gonna be there, and then you're gonna eat like a thing. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Are you saying that I'm gonna be in a commercial? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, did not understand that. First of all, not an actor, probably wrong person for this, you know? And I thought I was just gonna be making stuff in the comfort of my room and sending it off as usual. They're like, no, no, no. I'm like, do you have a headshot? I was like, just said I wasn't an actor. I have a photo of myself I can take right now. Anyway, it worked out, and it was one of the wildest jobs I've ever done, and they flew me out to LA, and we had all these like crazy meetings. Anyway, this is the commercial. No, that's not it. Let's see if it'll work. If it's playing, let me make sure. Don't want to get the feedback. Anyway, I have lots and lots of stories about this experience. It was wild for someone who just sits in their room and paints. To be out here was wild, and has never happened to me since, or will never happen again.
The inspiring taste of McDonald's new Spicy Chicken McBites.
Inspiring!
Poppable pieces of tender chicken breast, seasoned with just the right amount of spice, but just for a limited time. New Spicy Chicken McBites. The simple joy of spicy perfection.
Stop high-fiving me! You're not my friend! You're just an actor! Anyway, that was a weird and wild experience. There's like a long cut of that, and there's like a lot of stuff we kept doing. I sat there for I think like 3 hours doing this. And then I tried to make like an actor choice. I was like, I'll smile. They'll smile. They're like, don't smile! Oh, and then I realized like I kept eating this stuff, and they're like, you know, you don't have to eat all those. You can spit those out. I'm like, thanks for telling me. Like, there's a person here, their whole job is the spit bucket person. I was like, really? Are you joking? And they're like, okay, I'm gonna spit these out. I'm like, can we start painting now? Because we gotta get this done. Oh, I'm showing this real quick. There was, and again, before this is a before kid project where you could like spend hours and hours doing something, you know. So I had this idea to do this like Christmas pack and make wrapping paper and cards and use like newsprint printing and letterpress printing and screen printing and like hand stamp, and like I wanted to do this thing. It was just like it was like a fun thing, an idea, and really not knowing what would happen or if it would be successful or go anywhere, but just kind of like dug into it and spent hours and hours on this like wrapping paper pattern using Christmas Carol lyrics. And then did this double-sided newsprint wrapping paper and made all these cards and packaged them all up. And by the time it the cost of everything, like each pack, was like $200 or something, just not really, but it was just like, nobody's gonna pay $30 for but like a few people bought some and I think I broke even. And like, I show this because like, I still think it's really good and fun, and it was a lot of fun, but it just it didn't go anywhere. It's like, and that's that's okay. Like that's what happens sometimes is you kind of take this risk when you're playing or experimenting or doing a personal project that sometimes your mic goes out and you have to talk really loud. But anyway, can y'all still hear me? Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, all good. But the point is like, it's okay if everything doesn't always end in success or bigger jobs or a McDonald's commercial or something. Sometimes the process I think is just worth it. And that's why I show that. Or the other side of play, I think, is just being curious and keeping your eyes open and like finding weird connections. Really, if something's interesting, just to dig in and like really absorb it. So I saw these are old QSL like radio cards from the 40s, and they're just like, I find them, oh thanks man, to be very, very beautiful. And just because they each have their own personality, but they seem like such a cool set of cohesive, they work as a set. So we had this idea, this opportunity, a friend of mine, actually the guy who did the Pal Joey illustration that inspired me to do the sign stuff in the first place, stopped doing that and then opened a brewery. And so we knew each other. And he's like, can you help us with the labels? And they opened near Transmitter Park, so they in Brooklyn, and so they called themselves Transmitter Brewing. So it was by a radio tower. So I was just like, there's these radio cards. And they were like mad scientists with their beers. And so like each one had like a very specific, so they had this numbering system. I'm like, this is perfect. So sometimes it's like a matter of like, especially with design and anything creative, it's like combining two weird things, putting them together. So we did these labels that give you all the right information. They each have their own personality, but they look at, like a set. So that was just like a full happy mistake just by paying attention to something that was interesting and then like figuring out how to kind of combine it with something else. And I think that's a form of play, is like that curiosity and just kind of digging into like something that brings you joy. Okay, so this, as this is playing, so then we had our first kid. And then, as many of you with kids know, that just changes it just like flips your whole world upside down in many, many ways. But in this way, this is me and my daughter. After my son was born, we got in this routine where in the morning, it's her, I've drawn these letters and she's like, and destroyed. Yes, much better. But, and then trying to keep going and having this back and forth, and she's like 2.5 at this point. And so we got in this routine where in the morning, my wife would take the newborn and then I would take Evie, and we would just sit at our little table in our tiny kitchen and play with Play-Doh and construction paper and markers, and we just had all this stuff, and then that became this routine, and it became so fun. And then I started learning stuff about my own process through that, which is so interesting. And so there she is. So it's like it was so fun to see her. She started watching The Sound of Music, or Wizard of Oz. And so it's like, the idea of Dorothy I love the witch, like it's making sense. I'm gonna get it out of my head. So she starts drawing, and so this is a drawing she did. So that's Dorothy, and then like the wicked witch. Oh my God, I'm trying not to have nightmares. But like I loved her drawings. Because we'd have this big piece of paper, and she would draw something, and then like it was almost like her brain didn't even see that drawing. She would just like keep drawing over. And I'm like, gosh, that's so incredibly interesting because it's not about making this finished thing. It's about the process of getting something out of your head and creating, which I was like, God, that's where the joy and the magic is of getting that idea out. And she's like, I have a dress that looks like Dorothy's. I'm gonna put it on and I'm gonna have pigtails. And so it was like this immersive sort of experience, and just watching her kind of do that stuff was so interesting. And like this is some of her work. You know, and I would just throw tools at her and materials, like, here's some popsicle sticks. What are you gonna do now? And she's like, I will make drawings and cut them out and stick them on popsicle sticks. You know, it's like, so I still to this day, she's 9 now and my son's 6, so I still try to have materials at their disposal all day, every day, so that if they have an idea, they can just get after it. And it's so fun. But, so while she was 2.5 and we'd have those mornings, she would just be playing, and then I'd just be playing. And we just sit there and like, what are you doing? Oh, let's make this, like, let's draw that. And so she like one day put this Lego on this horse. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I will draw your horse with, you know, and I'm like, oh, these Legos, like they look like a little city. We could make a little video of Mommy Pig stuck in her teeny tiny apartment while it's snowing and feeling miserable. You know, and just like making stuff like this for no one. No one's gonna see it. Now you are. Like I wanted to show some stuff like no one's ever seen. You know, like just to try to get my head out of like, okay, there's a purpose for making this, and this is going to go here so that I can get a job to do this. I was trying to like embody the spirit of my daughter, who is just like loving making stuff. And that really opened up my brain a little bit. It's like, man, it doesn't matter. Like, just enjoy the process, and that can also lead to new ideas and ways of thinking when it's time to think about what you're doing at work. That really just like you're putting stuff in your toolkit. So I was making like all this kind of weird stuff and using the markers, and they'd dry out, and I'd throw them, and we go to the park, and I'm looking over, and she's just drawing this big face in the dirt, and I'm just like, yeah, you know? And again, it's like, she doesn't care if somebody the next day is just gonna like come and destroy it. It's not the point about having like a thing. And again, with Play-Doh, Play-Doh is such a fun tool. It's like, she'd make this thing and spend all this time and just be like, and it's smashed, you know? I just love it. Oh, and so this is some stuff like, again, nobody's ever seen. It's like, so I just got into the rhythm of making stuff. So we'd be at the park, and I made this little face out of leaves. And the first day that I got 5 hours of sleep, I made this after having a newborn. It was like, and then just drawing with like, it was a way to express how I was feeling, and, you know, just floating in the abyss, you know, and you have this like 2 kids, you're like, oh my God, trying to find a parking spot in New York. But so we eventually moved back to Texas because that just got to be too overwhelming. But and I'm glad we did, because now here we are. But still, I try to just still observe and like see what they do, and also just try to give them like a lot of like materials and resources. So that's just the kind of us in our like play life, which is still very vibrant. But backing up to when she was 2 or 3 or whatever, we got in this rhythm, I was like, man, construction paper is such a cool tool, because it's not permanent. It fades. So to use construction paper is almost like you're admitting to yourself that it is about this moment right now, and it's not about the future, you know? So I was like, man, screw it. Let's, and I love the color palette of construction paper. It's just like beautiful. I use that color palette for a lot of things. It's just those classic colors. And so then when the kids got a little older, I was going back to the studio, and I would just like sit in the morning and just like make weird stuff and just try to like, what do I want to make? You know? And so these things, and I brought these out here, and you can see how how like they're almost nothing now. Like I went ahead and framed them. And it's like they were super vibrant, and it's like, but I love how they're aging, because it's like, oh, the more faded they get, it's like the more, it's like time is passing, and I don't know, I feel like it's kind of beautiful. But I've never used that for anything. Like those were just for me. But and made this before we were going to move. We were moving from New York. I was feeling very kind of sad and nostalgic and excited, and using this to kind of express some of those ideas. But then a year or two later, I had this opportunity to do a poster for the Monterey Jazz Festival. And along with some other ideas, I pitched like, what if we make it out of construction paper? Like they'll never go for it. They're like, we love it. So that's that, and that's real. So I'm like, okay, this is nice, because I'm like not all digitally working in the computer. I'm cutting out things. And again, I love how that's fading and kind of like disappearing over time. But then, using that idea to like, what if all those pieces, like you made little characters or instruments or different things, and then that evolved into a more like clean sort of digital version of that was inspired by cut paper that now is a digital thing. So that was this was COVID, so no one ever saw that. But then the next year they're like, we want to use something kind of like what you did, but kind of different. So then that evolved to some of this stuff. And then I was like, cut paper. I developed like a way to fake the cut paper thing, and with scans and digital, so I was not actually spending all the time. So I was like, let's go for it. Let's make some weird cut paper stuff. So I like started in on this whole alphabet of like weird, and again, it's like you can't tell what letter it is, and I'm like, good. I don't care. At work, you're like, I can't really read that. It's not very legible. And it's like, I'll make an A. Nobody even knows it's an A. Screw you, world. But it's like A, B, C. I was like, how about, and then anything that just came into my mind, like, C, like, put some teeth in it, I don't know. And not thinking too hard, And then again, like, playing with Play-Doh inspired I got an iPad, with the Procreate and stuff. And I was like, what if we made these, I did these drawings that were like these monsters that were inspired by the process of Play-Doh. So they had the kind of weird rounded corner edges and stuff. And I posted these on Instagram, and I was like, every time I'd post one, I'd like lose like 30 followers. Everyone's like, I'm out. We need more letters. I'm like, no. And I would like keep posting them. I was like, if you don't like it, then screw you. And then that became a whole thing, because I'm like, no, doesn't matter. I think this is fun, and I'm just gonna like post these out, and then like, haha, everyone, like I got a job to do the Beetlejuice logo from those drawings, that again, they didn't use because it's completely illegible and it was a terrible idea. But not my idea. They're like, ooh, make a drawing that's like the sandworm. I'm like, okay, it's never gonna happen. Yeah. Oh, so this is a more recent one. Again, that's inspired by like, this was the Christmas campaign for Central Market. If y'all are familiar with Central Market, we at Trace Element, there's a few of my awesome crew here, but is one of our clients, and had the fortune of like digging into one of these giant holiday campaigns, and had this idea of, again, from just playing at home and discovering this world of children's books, and how incredible like the kind of vintagey books, and I had this arsenal of books already in my house. I'm like, what if we did a children's book idea? And they're like, great, let's do it. So we built out these giant books that hung around all around the stores, and made these ridiculous, the little characters holding prosciutto and whatnot, and just made these little children's book spreads. I think that were, it was fun. Visions of fire glazed hams, and like a lot of these illustrations were inspired by spreads from books that I really liked, and this was like a full team effort, and a bunch of people were working on these, and it was really, really fun. But again, it was like if I hadn't been reading those books with my kids and really just like digging into that world, I wouldn't have known how to combine that. But oh yeah, and then like having an idea a while back to do this weird liquidy kind of letters, and then that kind of turned into this. I used that for an idea for the Dave Matthews band last year, and they ended up using that. So, oh, and then this latest, I'm doing another Monterey Jazz Festival poster, and they wanted to do this idea about like a road or a journey or something, and I was like, so we got our kids a Nintendo Switch for Christmas, and so we've been playing Mario Kart nonstop, and I'm like, road, Mario Kart, yes, Rainbow Road. I was like, let's do something with inspired by Rainbow Road, you know? And so that, again, an idea inspired by playing, you know? And then so I just started drawing like ribbony kind of rainbow roady sort of things for a while and just seeing if anything happened. And then eventually got here, and this is their, you know, their identity for this year, which is like so weird. And like, I don't think I'd have ever got here without Mario Kart, so. Thank you, Mario Kart. And then the last thing I want to show, just because it's here, it's sort of near and dear to all of our hearts, is the Oak Cliff Brewing work, which again is like Doug kind of mentioned. It's definitely like a passion project, something that is super fun and playful. That it's like a perfect situation where there's someone right here that kind of appreciates, and we're all friends and pals, and we all want to help each other succeed, and they just let me play and like do anything that I want, and for the most part. But so he started, at first it was just the brewery, so we had a lot of paintings in there, not the one with, not the one painting, but the other paintings. There's one big painting in there that I did not do, and it's great, but that's an inside joke. So so he got a canning machine. He started doing these cans. So this was during COVID too. I'm like, man, let's just make some weird, you know, artwork and sit there and stress out about COVID and make some can design. So that's kind of like how this worked. And then like tap handles, like what if we did some 3D type stacked on top of each other. And so as the years have gone, we've kind of been building this brand, and I think it's like kind of all over the place and fun, and it's just a lot of fun to like dig into a project like this, and the contrast of, you know, other work that might not be so fun sometimes. But anyway, I think that's all I've got. Yeah. Anyway, that's all I got. Pretty good. I talked for 3 hours. What?
Do you guys
Oh
have any
yeah.
questions? We got time for maybe one,
Oh
two.
yeah. If you do, that's fine. But also, I'll say I brought some posters that you can just have, because I need to get rid of them. But there are a bunch of screen prints, and I have some rubber bands back there if you want to roll it up and just take them all, sell them, make some money.
So,
Another failed thing.
any questions? If not, we're gonna.
What's the new medium that you want to work with?
Say what?
What's the new medium that you want to work with? Like you've done cut art and you've done the acrylics. Is there something?
Yeah, and we as a studio have been talking a lot about this. There's so many like cool, so much amazing technology out there as far as like 3D and motion, animation, and I always want to keep it analog, you know, and that's one thing that I want to dig more into these new technologies, but I also want to like really, I just want to paint, you know? It's like, there's a painting that literally in my studio, it's been sitting there for like 2.5 years, and I have not touched it, and it's like sitting there just like every day, like, are you gonna? So it's like, this is one thing I wanted to say too, is it's really hard to play sometimes. It's really, it's just like, yeah, just do whatever you want. It's like, you have no idea. It's so hard to create this space to feel like you're not wasting your time, you know? But it's like you have to continually just like punch yourself in the face and just be like, you are not wasting your time. You're not wasting your time. Like, I'm painting this thing. It could go nowhere. I don't know. It's just like, just do it because it's fun. It's okay, you know? But anyway, that probably doesn't answer your question. I have some more mural projects coming up, which I don't really consider those as painting, but those are always so fun to do because you're out somewhere else and kind of moving around and using actual materials and stuff. But anyway, I'll stop.
Any other questions? Awesome. Well, let's thank Jeff one more time and thank you all for being here.
Thanks, guys.